So, this video is going to be about rules and titles. Title to ownership of a short-barreled weapon, rifle or shotgun. It has nothing to do with pistols or a machine gun or any other thing that is defined under ATF rules currently. May require a $5 any other weapon tax stamp and or a $200 NFA tax and approval by the ATF if classed as falling under the definitions under the National Firearms Act in the original case, which is $200 fine, or under $5 due to a revision of things that really shouldn't be taxed like that, and it's just simply so that you registered. It's basically you're paying the fee for registering it and stuff like that to keep track of it. But not under costing anything for generic firearms listings, which would seem outside of the definition for generic pistol, rifle, or shotgun. To wit, Title I firearms. They're ordinary, dimensionally compliant rifles, pistols, revolvers, shotguns, that sort of thing, that people know when they see it. If you do something that's a pen gun or a cane gun, it may fall under NFA $200 or $5 AOW. It really depends on what was done with it. Many things are like that. And they can be owned and or built by citizens without approval by the ATF at all for the ordinary ones. State and federal laws are different in this case. State and local laws may have all sorts of restrictions. Where law prohibits the possession of firearms is only by the following. This is federal ATF laws and stuff. Persons found by any court to present a danger to the community for various reasons may include or exclude or whatever people who are designated as being mentally ill in such a way that it would incapacitate them to be trustworthy with a weapon. Stalkers, harassers, and perpetrators of domestic violence or any other form of antagonistic or violent behavior that might be judged by a judge and court or jury to be, again, a danger to the public, or simply because they're a danger to an individual. Convicted felons are blanket statement excluded, and it may not include any kind of violent behavior. It could be just that they did something that makes them a felon. And besides that last group, which is kind of a gray area on whether or not they should be excluded from having self-protection. I mean, some people are guilty of a felony that haven't done anything violent. Also included is illegal aliens being excluded from having access to weapons. The presumption is simply because it is a felony to be an illegal alien. But how does this work out? Well, the 3-minute and 15-second I'm going to tell you. If you prohibit a person who is illegally or unlawfully in the United States, those actually have separate meanings in some ways, from possessing any firearm or any ammunition, which is actually how the rules are written, simply being in possession of or being suspected of or being able to be blamed for having possession. Remember, all of a sudden you go from being a person who has the benefit of innocent until proven guilty to being, oh, you're not supposed to be here. Let's just throw this on top of the reasons we're going to throw you out, and you'll be lucky if you don't go to prison or whatever. The government must prove that the defendant knew he was in a category of persons barred from possessing a firearm and or possession of guns, ammunition, or any other items. Congress has had a long-standing presumption regarding a defendant. The defendant must possess culpable mental state, knowledge of, each statutory element that criminalizes anything that would be considered innocent otherwise. Now, what this means is driving down a road without knowing it's marked "Do Not Enter," or not knowing that it literally is a repurposed airstrip, doesn't mean you're violating FAA rules. It just means you did not know that you were on an airstrip. There's no planes on it. You didn't know that. That's actually a case that happened. Or another one where a person drove a car to a point that stopped and didn't realize that they were in literally not a tunnel, but a pipe, water pipe. They didn't realize that. They had their lights on, like, why isn't there any lights in this tunnel? How long does it go? It was low. It was in a desert area, and they didn't realize the dirt ground on the bottom of the pipe indicated this was actually a flow through. Not trespassing, not attempting to go up into a dam, just didn't know where they were. It's not a criminal action because you have to show criminal intent. They must be aware they're doing something wrong. And it isn't just the chicken shit way out of it. Lack of knowledge about a criminal action is one thing. Not knowing you're committing it is a completely different one. So let's go on with this one. And it has to be for each statutory element that when combined create a felony or criminal act, but on their own wouldn't. For instance, jaywalking isn't a felony. Jaywalking on a federally controlled location that's used for the military can be. Well, really, it's just jaywalking, right? Well, it's not, but wasn't that trespassing? Not necessarily. Everything's different. And this was borne out, again, otherwise innocent behavior by an ordinary person not knowing something. A specific case where a man was participating in shooting activities and rented a gun on the premises of a gun range only. Never left the building with it. He did walk out with some ammunition because people keep, a couple of rounds because they paid for them. You end up buying them. And he decided to keep a few of them. I could go to a gun range and say I want the gun scrap, range scrap, shell casings and smashed lead to do a survey. Can I pick up all the range lead? I'm going to be doing a statistical analysis of what are the most popular bullets at your location and estimating impact rating and estimating how much deformation they have when they load dump into sand versus water versus wood. That's actually something people do once in a while because they want to see what does this shit actually really do. Gun ranges have plenty of samples. You can also figure out how much of it is lead and how much of it is each element. This is actually stuff that's been done. Anyway, he was at the gun range. However, at the time, he didn't know that he had been dismissed from a college. They decided to just kick him out of a college. He paid for his schooling, and they decided to refund the money. He was here on a F1 student visa, and I don't know if you know this, but most people from foreign countries that visit the United States don't get a free ride from libtards. He actually had to pay his way through college, and they refunded him. He didn't get a grant from the government or anything, and what happened at that point is they decided to expel him. But by expelling him, this also meant that all of a sudden he was legally not forbidden. He was forbidden from being in the United States and had to leave. Now he hadn't been kicked out. He hadn't been informed of this. Nobody was after him. Nobody even knew anything about this. They don't really worry about it because, again, he's not a threat or anything. He's just not allowed to go to school anymore. And by the way, I know at least 10 or 20 people in Portland that had that happen, and they can request, if they find out about it quickly enough, to be given a temporary visa while they appeal the decision because they've literally done nothing wrong and they've gone through all the hoops and done everything asked for. But he had a couple of, literally, 1 or 2 cartridges from there. And when he was visited by the ATF or whatever, actually it was probably immigration, they said, well, you're not supposed to be in possession of bullets. But at the time I did this, I thought I was legally allowed to be here. Again, if you're here legally, has no restriction. So instead of saying, oh, he, at the time, had no idea that this happened, because he didn't. He was on vacation, 2-week vacation, summer vacation, whatever. You're still technically F1 visa. They decided to push it and charge him with a felony and screw him over, instead of saying, benefit of the doubt, he had no knowledge of it, and we can't prove he knew it. And honestly, it's a little bit of a stretch because he was in possession of a couple of 9mm cartridges. What if it was spent casings? It is a felony to be in possession of spent casings, apparently, too. I found that case very interesting. It was immediately thrown out because that's bizarrely dumb. You can find range brass all over the place. It's not just the range. Also, people make it into jewelry. You can also have a dummy round. Dummy rounds are considered ammunition, even if it cannot be fired. I'm not kidding. People have done that. Yeah, a piece of jewelry shaped like a bullet. And yes, this also happened to somebody, same situation, because he was in possession of an airsoft pistol, and they decided, even though it isn't a firearm, we're going to charge him for that because we want to be dicks and create a precedent that made it to where they can't enforce laws. When cops or the government does something dickish, the legal system actually decides, we're going to punish the government because you're pushing it. Limitation of power by the government. Kind of an idea. But this is an alien and build a wall. So first thing a lot of you are going to ask is, which country is he from? We treat each country differently. We make the same agreement in writing under penalty of perjury for the student coming here or for anybody else coming here. We agree not to throw you in jail for being an illegal alien, because you're not, as long as you keep up your F1 status or whatever it is. He had done nothing wrong, so now he gets punished horribly. So, that guy who got basically executed in North Korea because he was visiting and they decided to kill an American by declaring him a spy because they have laws there. No, that's not the same thing. To them it is. They decided he lost his status and kept him inside, and he died very slowly. And the reason they wouldn't give him back is they wanted to use him for leverage to get an agreement out of the previous president. So do we do that to them? Oh, it's not the same thing. Yes, it fucking is. No, I'm not in favor of aliens visiting the United States or Area 51. I'm in favor of us closing up the borders and being dicks about it if we want to, but we should make that decision knowing full well what that means. That means you can't leave the country either. You're not allowed to visit those countries because they say, well, you kick all of our people out, we kick all of your people out. Tit for tat. In this case, they tried to screw somebody over. And this is egregious. This is hilariously bad. He literally may have fired again for the first time in his life. Who knows? But maybe he was a Muslim, or maybe he was a dirty Mexican. Or, right? That makes a difference? No, I'm not saying who he was. You have to look at the description below, find the link, and find out whether or not he's a group of people you can demonize. And while you're doing that, why does it matter to you? And would it matter to you if it was done to you? Do unto others? Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.